Hello writers of the world, welcome to my channel. My name is Mo Shalaby and this is my channel, Agent Mo. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know you probably have a lot better things to do, but the reason why I am here is because I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I wanted to tell you about how I got into agenting, how I got into book publishing, and all about the good stuff, really. And the reason why is because I myself am a writer, and I worked at a literary agency for a few years. I was a junior agent, and so I got to learn a lot about the book publishing world before and after my career as a literary agent. But essentially what got me into the book publishing market was my love of writing. I loved writing, and I'm pretty sure this is why you're currently watching me right now. And I hope you can stick along for the long run. If you do like my content, and I hope you do, I really hope I'm doing justice on this, please like my video, subscribe, share it with your friends on social media, and I would love to bring more and more in the future to talk about even more detailed stuff, to talk about this crazy journey of writing and publishing and finding literary agents. If you are asking, if you are wondering, yes, I do have a literary agent. Thank goodness. It's really hard to get a literary agent, but I will be kind of facilitating that process, hopefully, and talking about the ins and outs of publishing, how easy it is, what you can do to kind of better your chances, anything that I could do to help. In future episodes, what I'm also hoping to do is I'm hoping I could reach out to you, my viewers, and ask you to submit to me query letters or pitches, depending on my requests. And I'd love to pick a few of those queries and pitches, read them on air. I don't have to mention names if you don't want me to, but I'd love to give feedback based on that and provide the best feedback that I can in order to help make your query letter better suited for the agenting round, I guess. In order for you to have more exposure, in order for you to better find an agent, to better find an editor. But of course, there's a sequence to those events. Today, however, I do want to talk about the query process, because as a lot of you know, if any of you are aware, November is National Novel Writers Month, NaNoWriMo for short, and that's when a lot of authors write a full manuscript in 1 month. And it's usually all the way up to 50,000 words, although a lot of debuts are more than that or are required to be more than that. But what happens afterwards is publishing kind of shuts down due to the holidays, and it's especially more prominent this year because of COVID. And so now, as the year starts, we're seeing a pickup of the publishing process again. Agents are going back to work, publishers are going back to work, and they are hungry for stories. So this is the time for you to start submitting your query letters. If you are still working on that novel, though, I would like for you to kind of wait a little longer until that draft is complete and revised, because agents are really good characters or really good judges of whether a manuscript is done or not. They will know if you did not revise your draft. They will know what draft it is. I have worked with many agents. We can tell. We can definitely tell. And I don't want to say we. I mean, I'm now considered just an author. I am no longer a literary agent, but I do have an agent, and we work very closely together, so I really understand the dynamic. So what I want to talk about in short is the query letter itself, not the query process. I want to talk about how to best write a query letter that captures an agent, depending, of course, on the type of story that you wrote. So that's the number one thing that I want you to be aware of. The query letter, or whether it does attract an agent or doesn't, is contingent upon what story you have wrote and which agent you have queried. So the number one rule that I want you to follow is make sure your draft is revised. So if you've completed it in November, chances are it still needs a little bit more revisions since then, because 1 month of revisions, as good of a reviser as you are, is really not enough. So number one, make sure it's revised. Number two, when you are working on the query letter, the first rule is try to personalize it. So when you start a query letter, make sure you personalize it. What does that mean? That means find the agent that is best suited for your work. And what that means is you need to read the submission guidelines. So when you're searching for agents on Query Shark, when you're searching, just cold searching online on Google, search the submission guidelines of that agent. What exactly are they looking for? Are they looking for your specific genre? If not, then you need to make sure that the agent that you are reaching out to actually does work on books that are similar to yours in genre, even in style. And the reason why I say that is because this goes into the personalization. When you start writing your query letter, you want to address the agent, and I will include examples of these, by the way, in the link below. So if you visit the link below, I will include an example of a query that is done really bad and a query that's done really well. And these are both my queries. So the reason why I say personalization is because you want to approach the agent as if you know what you're talking about. So rule number one when writing a query, do not address the agent as simply sir or ma'am. You need to make sure you get their name right, last name right, everything is right. And you want to make sure that they do represent the genre that you have written. Because chances are, if you submit to an agent that does not represent your genre, they're simply going to discard, or they aren't even going to look at your query letter. So do your research. You're going to address the agent. You're going to pretty much appeal to their I don't want to say emotions. You're going to appeal to their likes. What do they like to read? What are some books that they have represented? And this is something that agents really like. If you've done your research, they can tell from that first line, really. So for example, what I've done a lot was I looked through the lists of books that they represent, and I find one that matches my book. And what you can do in this case is really backward research. Find books that are similar to yours and see what or who are the agents that represent that book. Chances are they might be looking for something similar to yours. So you're going to find similar books to yours and kind of say, I've noticed that you represent this book, and I noticed that you're looking for similar books too, and I'd like to introduce you to mine. Again, you will see this in the example that I attach below. Number two, you want to make sure that you identify what it is that you're selling. So what kind of book is it? What is the genre? How many words are in this manuscript? I usually don't do this until the very end. I take the word count and I take the genre and I put it all the way at the end. Or you can actually do it at the beginning as well. There's really no preference. But I identify the name of my book. I identify the title. And that kind of has some magic to it where it does attract an agent if the book title is really nice. Again, this is just an identifier. You want to identify the name of the book, you want to identify the genre, you want to identify the word count, or you can also do that at the end. The third thing you want to do is you want to write a synopsis. And I don't mean a lengthy synopsis. This should be a hook. Think of a movie trailer. When you watch a movie trailer, you don't always know what the movie is going to be about, unless it's a very familiar movie or part of a series and you're familiar with the story beforehand. But think of your hook as your movie trailer, and this is the most attractive part of the story. What are the most attractive parts of this story? And you want to kind of link them together so that they can hook the agent, so that they can request the book. So it has to say, wow, yes, I need this book right now. This is a beautiful book. This is exactly what I've been looking for. Again, if you do the first part correctly, if you personalize it correctly, you've done your research, you know that this agent represents that specific book, then the hook, hopefully it'll also feed into that, and the agent will definitely want to read or would want to request it. But it has to hook the agent. It has to be really well made. Again, think of a trailer. The last thing you want to do is you want to include your bio. Now, this is where it gets a little cumbersome. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of new writers, a lot of debut writers, amateur writers don't really have that many credentials when it comes to writing. And that's totally fine. You don't have to have some kind of huge, massive writing background, but it doesn't hurt either. So if you do have an MFA, mention that. If you have some short stories published in some literary magazine, mention that. If you're part of a writer's group, I mean, it helps. Again, anything that kind of indicates that you have some kind of writing experience would be good. But if you don't, that's totally fine. Don't feel bad about it. Another thing you want to include is your current job. If you if the job is relevant to writing, that's fine. If it isn't, again, it's fine. But in this bio, you kind of want to appeal to the agent to say, I know what I'm doing. A lot of times what I do in my query letters is I write down a purpose. Why do I think I am the best person to write this book? And this will be a question that an agent will ask you during the call. And I'll talk a lot more about the call in future episodes. But they will ask you, why do you think you're the best person to write this book? And this is a very critical question because it pretty much sums up the reason why you write books in the first place. Why this book? And I usually include a sentence saying why I wrote this book, because it has something to do with my life. It doesn't necessarily have to. I mean, a lot of fantasies don't really relate to our lives. But again, include just one sentence purpose. And these 4 things, which is personalization, you want to identify what you're writing, and then you want to hook through the synopsis. It's a very short paragraph. And then eventually what you want to include is your bio. The query letter in general should only be 1 page. Do not go over 1 page. Otherwise, you're just spending a lot of time on just being very verbose, and you want to be very concise. And again, I will include examples down below. And in the next episode, what I will do is I will actually take one of my older query letters. It's really, really bad. And I will change it so that you could see how I write my query letters. And there's a lot of thought process going into it. But hopefully you can stick around and stay with me until that next episode, and I would love to share more with you. Once again, if you like my content, click on the like button, subscribe, share with all your friends. I will do more of these, and in the future I will also talk about book reviews. I'll also talk about publishing news, the new and the old, everything. I'll talk about querying, I'll talk about pitches, I'll talk about anything and everything that has to do with the publishing world, because I've been there. And I'll explain to you also how I got my literary agent. It's a great story. But stick with me until next time.